What's going on, growers? It's James Prigioni coming to you live from Jersey. As you can see behind me, the Big Cherry is setting up for its greatest year ever, and the rest of the food forest is looking prime. I want to take you through, show you the progression, and also plant some strawberries in the new food forest. Let's go! Straight ahead is the Big Cherry that I was just standing in front of. This year it has way more flowers than it ever has. And in front of me here is the new Akani apple that we planted. Just last year I put it in the ground and it's already showing some good bud sites. So we've got high hopes for that one. The gooseberries down here are looking excellent, looking prime. About to start showing some flowers. We've got the Captivator and the Welcome gooseberry. And the seedlings are looking excellent. Brassicas are about ready to go out. And you can just, maybe are starting to grasp how many we have planted. All these here are tomatoes, peppers, or eggplants that have sprouted up so far. So we've got a number of trays. Just right in front of me, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 12. That's 72 plants right there. Let me show you some of the brassicas zoomed in. This year we've done better than the previous years of keeping them short and keeping them stocky. And one of the main ways to do that was keeping the temperature down. We've also put a good amount of airflow on them, which has kept them strong. The raspberries in the back, those are just going to be loaded soon, and you can see the grape behind it. I want to give you all a different angle and a different perspective to show you the density of everything planted in here. It reminds me of what Jeff Lawton says, talking about the first time he went to Bill's property when he was still a student. Jeff said when he went there, he was immediately kicking himself because he wasn't planting with the rampancy that Bill was, the density. He was basically afraid. He wasn't copying the forest. So I want to encourage you to plant things densely. And it's tough to find the balance between not shading things out and have things planted dense enough, but you'll learn as things go, and it's kind of just a process that you'll pick up. Back here, we've got grapes. Underneath that, raspberries is the section I just showed you. Blackberries, a peach tree, strawberries underneath there, cilantro growing, apple tree from seed, more strawberries, Concord grape. Here's an apple, a Red Delicious, looks beautiful. Pear tree from seed, apple tree from seed, yarrow at my feet, mint at my feet, raspberries, another grapevine over here, Santa Rosa plum. So it's endless. There's a lot of stability when you have a lot of things like this, but one thing to note is stability doesn't come just from diversity. Stability actually comes from the amount of beneficial connections. That's what's important. Next to me here too, we've got a Rainier cherry just about to pop. As you can see, it's just about to open, and the amount of flowers on it is going to be really amazing for how small of a tree it is. That one gives me high hopes. And that section I was in, that's a small section. You don't need a lot of space. I'm trying to get that across to you guys. I say it a lot. But let me step back and just, that's like a small microcosm of what the whole food forest is. As I walk back and back, we've got just more things, more cherry trees on my right, grapes, hazelnut tree here, and this nectarine is looking excellent. Look how beautiful the pear tree is too. Man, this thing is just coated in flowers. I love it. And the asparagus are coming up, starting to peek through. We'll be eating a lot of asparagus soon. I saw one right over here a minute ago. There it is. A little weed here, we'll just pull that out. Easy to do. And some of you asked about the peas. They're all coming up. Doing real well. In some sections, the chickens actually reached through the fence and pecked at some of the stuff, so I'm gonna have to lock the chickens in their pen from now on. Now that things are getting nicer, we'll have plenty of greens to feed them. Spring is definitely my favorite season. Just a couple weeks ago, this place was almost desolate looking. Brown and just covered in wood chips. Now there's almost nowhere I can walk that I'm not stepping on something new. And even the persimmon's starting to wake up. I hope we get some fruit off that one. I love persimmons. And that's one of the persimmons that's actually astringent, so you have to wait for it to get cold and soft before you eat it. But they're delicious. I found something sprouting up, a little kind of surprise on the ground. Let me show you that. You can see there's more peas coming up along the fence line, but that's not what I wanted to show you. I've talked about it before, but it'll be hard for me not to mention it more. The fertility in the food forest is so high, anytime you almost drop something, it wants to grow or sprout. So right here, I saw something coming up and I was gonna pull it out because it was coming up around my peas. And then I noticed in the back, that looks like a hazelnut. So I'm pretty positive that we've got a couple small hazelnut trees coming up. Another one back there. So it seems like almost under everything I'm growing, we've got things that are either rooting themselves and growing, or I'm doing it. So together that you can actually see why this food forest is actually sustainable, but not only sustainable, but self-replicating. That's a word I've talked about before, but think about that, a system that would actually not only excel and get better in the future, but even replicate itself and probably naturally become stronger and more resilient, because the strongest things would outcompete the weakest. Now that I'm here, I'm in charge of this place and I'm the steward, so I choose what things grow and I choose to grow what I want. Being able to choose what things grow, in my opinion, as a gardener, it's one of our greatest blessings. I try to take full advantage of it, and that's really where the creativity can start to flow. Design can be in there too, but variety selection, that's a lot of fun, and even what kind of trees you want to plant. Someone questioned in a previous video why I ripped out the wild violet in the new food forest. The reason for that is I've got it growing all throughout the property invasively. So in my food forest, I want to grow things like this Bing cherry, things that I like to eat and the bees love too. The bees are definitely loving this one today. There's a lot of little pollinators everywhere. And once in a while we've got a monster bumblebee that comes through and graces us with his little presence and pollinates. Underneath the Bing cherry, we've got comfrey growing, an apple tree from seed right here, raspberries, and there's just plenty of stuff coming up from seed that I've planted in previous years. This apple tree's got some fruit on it. The Mount Morency, that cherry is always really productive for us. And some of you questioned whether or not we were going to get apricots. Let me take you a little closer and show you how they're doing and whether or not we're going to get some fruit. Here's one of the small apricots in the tree in the corner. It's completely loaded, which is a great sign. We're hoping to get a lot of fruit on this one. And some of this lower growth, I'll show you one of other trees too. I don't want this growing here. I want the increased airflow. So I'm going to just pull that off when it's young instead of wasting all the hormones and all the growth on this little stuff that I'm going to get rid of in the future. We want to get rid of it when it's young. The smaller the cuts, the less invasive we are on the tree, the better. Look at that goji. It's just going bonkers. Like I said, if anyone wants gojis coming in the future, there's got to be 20 goji plants in there. And the old pear tree is looking better than it ever has. Some new growth is got some nice color on it, and that's looking to produce. The other apricot tree, that's loaded as well. Beneath me, it looks like the currants are going to be producing a lot of flowers this year and a lot of currants. The one to the left of me hasn't started flowering yet, but it may just be a little later. You may have noticed that those two currants are in the shade. As the sun starts to set here and the west is behind me, these get shaded by the fence. That's okay though, that's why I planted currants. Currants can actually fruit in partial shade, which these ones will, and produce. So knowing what kind of plant you have and your location could be a big help. Something like these trees, I'm not worried about them getting shaded because they'll be tall enough to grow up over it. And it's only a small portion of the day that they actually do get shaded. I've mentioned it before that yield is based on information, and I truly believe that. I'm gonna get those currants in the back and eat them because I know that they grow in that partial shade. And I also planted currants underneath a couple of my fruit trees because they can grow in partial shade. One thing I want to encourage you guys to do, and maybe I'm just speaking to myself here, is to try to soak up every experience. Try to soak up planting a new food forest. You only get to do that once, and as much fun as that was for me, it was almost kind of bittersweet because I don't know if I'm going to be able to plant another food forest in this property. I just don't have the space anymore. So try to enjoy it, try to soak it up so you can use that experience and invest it in the next one and just grow every day, just like your food forest. Here's one of the currants that I have planted underneath a pear tree. And the pear tree is loaded, looking beautiful. Here's the moon glow. This one produced a lot of fruit for us last year. Can't wait to eat them. Pears are reliable. They're one of the things that I've seen growing locally here, just naturally with no help at all. I've seen them growing on a roadside. I saw a Bartlett pear someone planted maybe a couple years ago on a roadside with no help, growing on its own, producing fruit. After I saw that, I realized I got to get some pears in. So I planted that one. I planted a number of new pears. but apples are still my favorite, so you know I have a lot of those planted. This video could literally go on for hours, me walking around the food forest, talking, because I've said it so much. This is my passion. I live to do this. But I need to get the strawberries planted in the new food forest. I'll take you with me though. Let's go. I told you in a previous video that Tuck's not allowed in the food forest anymore. When the seedlings are small, he gets too excited, runs along the fence line, rips up the peas and stuff. But what's the deal with the strawberries, you're probably thinking, JP? So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have a strip here, about 15 feet, 15 strawberries, about a foot apart spacing. So that's a strip between the trees. Another strip between these trees, 15. Another strip between this trees, 15. 3 different varieties. I'll show you guys how I'm doing that, why I'm doing that, and we'll get them in. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but if you wanna see something like how to plant strawberries, I could definitely do that. Let me know in the comments down below, because I read every single one of them. If I can't get the answering back, it doesn't mean I don't read it, guys. Before I get planting, there's a few things I wanted to mention. First of all, just like the bare root trees, I advise you to order your strawberries. I got mine from Rain Tree, just like the trees. The reason for this is you can get the best varieties for your particular location. If you go to the big box store locally, they're just gonna have the standard varieties. You wanna be able to choose rare ones or ones that you like for specific reasons. If your strawberries arrive early and you need to kind of hold off for a few days for planting, if it's warm, you can stick them in the fridge actually for a few days. That's fine. Ideally though, you want to plant your strawberries as soon as you can work the ground. One thing to note is if you're going to hold off a few days, you want to make sure these roots stay nice and damp. You don't want it soaking wet, but you want it to be damp. Probably the most important thing when planting strawberries is that you don't plant all of the crown. I'll show you what the crown is and give you a little zoomed in version. Right here is the crown. This is where the leaves are going to basically unfold from as it starts growing. You want to make sure all those roots are buried, maybe a little bit of the bottom of the crown, but you don't want this top part all buried or the leaves won't be able to open up. So about that height, I would say. I'll show you as I plant though. I just opened this one, but when you get your strawberries, it'll come in a bundle of 25 usually. That's typical. I said I was planting 15 in each row, so I still will have 30 total left over because I have 3 bunches of 25 that I'll plant maybe in the old food forest and throughout the property. One thing that's good to do though before you're planting, you can soak all this in water to make sure all these roots get nice and hydrated before you put it in the ground. You don't want to do this for more than, half hour or so. You don't want to be cutting off all the oxygen to the roots for days or something. This could really negatively affect your plants. Tuck's always got to get his face in there. As long as he's not drinking it, we're good.
I was just a young man starving for some sort of truth, and you seem to be starving faster than anyone else I knew. And I said there's gotta be a reason.
This should give you all an idea of how thick the wood chips are. It's a choice though, either thick wood chips or weeds. I'll go with the wood chips. Pulling that back, that's mostly all the work that I have to do. Now just planting. Although, since this is the first year, the weeds haven't all died back. This is the first year I had the wood chips down. If I kept those wood chips down, these would have just died back and been fine. But since I exposed them, they would actually really grow a lot. And this is the wild violet. So I don't want that intertwining and mixing with the strawberries. I want to make sure I pull those out before I get my strawberries in.
Maybe some sort of clue that out here on this endless skyway, all I'm seeing is you. But you said there's nothing in this world called love, just uncompassionate wolves and sheep's clothing. Oh, and darling, if that's true, you won't mind me howling at you.
The first thing you'll notice is that I pulled the wood chips back. We're planting into the soil. We don't plant into the wood chips. So I'm gonna dig a large enough hole for the strawberry plant to fit in. I'll grab a plant. I had him soaking in the water. Tuck's gotta always check the hole for me. And this is the size of the strawberry. Huge root size, really healthy. I'm happy with it. And this is the crown here. We don't wanna bury this too deep. About half, like I previously mentioned, and let me show you. I can just dig this with my hands. I've got sandy soil. You'll notice it's got a good color on the top. That's because we've had the wood chips down, but previous years I've also come through and just laid black leaf mulch down because I thought I might be planting here in the future. So you want to get a hole big enough for the roots to fit in. That's about there. And then there's a technique when planting these. The technique is at the bottom of your hole, you want to build basically a little mound like this, and then drape the roots over top of that mound. This way you have that mound to support the top of the crown and the roots to go cascade down the side. That's what I'm going to do at the bottom of this hole here that I have dug. Now that I have the hole dug deep enough, I'll put some more soil in to make my mound. Maybe a little deeper. And then I'll spread the roots out. And like I said, just cascade that down. Sitting nice there. Next I'll put some mycorrhizal fungi down. Some mycos around the roots. And I've got a little black leaf mulch too. And then I'll start to bring the soil back around. If you have to, you could pull it up a little bit if necessary. Come back with a little more mulch. And that's it. That's a nice depth. You've got half the crown basically underneath, and the top is still open. Be able to unfold those roots. And after I have it planted, I come through and just spread the wood chips around the base. This helps hold the moisture in and feed the plant. As you can see, crown is still exposed, but those roots are nice and deep, gonna feed that plant. Tuck's helping to remove the sticks from the area I'm gonna plant in also. One at a time, but he's still doing his job. Usually he's on security. Today he's on cleanup duty, but he always pulls his part.
Can I please have my eyes back, baby? 'Cause I can't seem to take them off you. Can I please have my heart back, baby? Oh, as you're trampling through. And I learn by the grace of my Father how a man comes to face the odds with great composure and aim for true virtue. And you learn by the eyes of your mother how to accept the man, not by what he's made of, but how will he hold your hand. But you said there's nothing in this world called love, just uncompassionate wolves in sheep's clothes. Oh, and darling, if that's true, you won't mind me howling at you. Can I please have my eyes back, baby? 'Cause I can't seem to take them off you.
There's about 10 in so far. You can see how easy it is and how enjoyable it could be, especially when you got your buddy with you. I'll continue doing that. Some of you questioned, are the runners going to be able to spread into the wood chips with them being that thick? No, they're not actually going to be able to, but this year we're going to have just a nice thick mat going through here as they send their runners out, just around the base of them. They'll be able to root, like through wood chips that thick, they'll easily be able to root. And then in coming years, these wood chips will break down, or anywhere I want, I could just pull the wood chips back and then send the runners going that way. They'll root right into the ground. And like I talked about previously, soon this whole food forest will have these rows of strawberries this year, but then in previous years, a lot of the strawberries will migrate to under the trees. We'll plant some annuals and stuff in the rows that open up because they'll be exposed with light. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you gained some value and some encouragement from it, maybe some inspiration. If you did, hit that notification bell so when we upload, you can follow along. for this progression, the growth of the forest, the food forest, the new garden, and also me as a person, so we can all grow together. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, check us out on Steam It because we post there too. James Prigioni is out.
Oh, is your trampoline